Trade is absolutely critical to Oregon's economy. Up to a third of it, directly or indirectly, is based on trade. I, however, think that it is absolutely critically important that we base our state's trade policies on fair trade and not just free trade. It is fundamentally critical that we as a state and a nation be able to play on a level playing field, that the protections that we place in this country not disadvantage us vis-a-vis our protections for workers and those who shouldn't be working, children, our environment, as well as our protections for consumers. We need to level the playing field. That will in no way diminish the amount of trade or the dollar value that is derived from that, and that is the only way that we can prevent Oregon from losing more than the 60,000 jobs that it has already lost.
Thank you, Jim. I'm glad you asked this question. You absolutely can't have a discussion about jobs in the 1st District without talking about trade. And I recognize the importance of trade to the business community, and I appreciate the concerns raised by workers about the impact of trade agreements. And I have been clear where I stand, and I've been consistent on this issue regardless of whom I'm speaking to. Here's some of the criteria that I would use to analyze whether a trade issue that comes before me in Congress. First, does it create or save jobs in the 1st Congressional District? And I can tell you there's a lack of good information about how particular trade agreements impact jobs in the 1st District and in Oregon. What are the provisions for labor rights, for environmental rights, and for human rights? And I will not surrender my ability to advocate effectively by making a blanket promise in a campaign to vote yes or no on a certain trade proposal. Doing so removes any leverage that I might have to work for the best possible deal to represent the 1st Congressional District.
Thank you. Well, let's be clear about one thing first. My opinion on trade is not based on what the labor unions think, what the governor thinks, what anybody else thinks. It's based on what the workers in my district need. And I will say no to any trade agreement that takes jobs away from American workers and ships them overseas. The 1st Congressional District is 7th among the 435 congressional districts in how many jobs it loses. Nearly 20,000 have been lost to China already because of the trade deficits with that country. Allowing other countries to abuse workers, to refuse basic environmental protections, to get their goods into our market with cheap tariffs while we cannot do the same to their markets is killing us. And any trade agreement that puts us in an inferior position to another will not receive my support.